What up, everybody? Tuesday night, you know what that means? Flyers Talk A2D got a lot to unpack with the arrival of Matvei Michkov in Philadelphia. Wow, it really did happen. Flew into JFK this morning. Danny Briere, Keith Jones went to pick him up. We're also going to have a little bit of fun because it is a slow point of the offseason. We're going to talk Reverse Cup. We're going to take the losers of the conference finals on each side, pin them against each other in the Stanley Cup final, and kind of break down and see who may or may not have won the Stanley Cup between those said teams. So, got a lot to talk about, like I said. So, we're going to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share. Let's go, boys. It's time to talk some hockey.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Flyers Talk A2D live on A2DRadio.com. I am Matt Sitsuti, along with the Dark Wing, Brian Daly.
He's here. He's finally here.
And the Broken One himself, Rob Povia.
What's up, gentlemen? How are we this evening?
Oh, very well. And Mr. Blue Shirt, Mr. Broadway, Mr. Switzerland, Big Bad Brad Ryer.
Congratulations, guys! What a great story to get to have the guts to get him. That was a gutty pick, and he's here now.
I know. The excitement is just through the roof out here in Philadelphia. Of course, alluding to the one and only Matvei Michkov, he has finally arrived in Philadelphia after all the speculation of how long would it be for a wait for him to come here, and that's why a lot of teams passed on him, and now he's here in Philadelphia. He managed to get his KHL contract annulled, so he was able to get himself over here, and now the excitement builds, and we look more forward to the season opener, maybe even the preseason, than we did before for the Philadelphia Flyers. And tonight, the show is brought to you by, as always, the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal, over at Specialized Physical Therapy. If you have any aches and pains bothering you, contact him at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Make an appointment to head either to Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey, and he has some great staffs in both locations. Everyone knows exactly what they need to do to make sure you don't have any more aches and pains when you go to see them. So, on to the poll question. Michkov's presence will change the expectations of the Flyers season. Agree or disagree? As we all know, the Flyers were a bubble team and actually was doing slightly above that bubble range. There was times where they were actually in a playoff spot and it looked like they might actually find their way in. But then we all know what happened. They ran out of gas, and, we've said that to death. So, plugging in Michkov, does that change things? Does that give the Flyers the extra oomph necessary to maybe win a few of those games that they lost down the stretch, to get them over the hump into the playoffs for the first time since 2020. So, does he do that? Or are the Flyers still going to be in the same spot that they were last year, where a lot of potential, maybe have a slightly above average season, actually very highly above average season, although I think it might be slightly above now with expectations. But still, the point being is that would the Flyers still miss, but not by much? So, agree or disagree, gentlemen? The floor is yours.
I'm going to agree. I think he does change the expectations for this season. I know Danny Briere has come out and said expect a step back, but this kid's already raring to go. He's in Voorhees. He just gets done the pressers, and he already wants to get on the ice. Like, come on, this is the kid that the Flyers have been waiting for a long time. This kid that's got a great work ethic. He's got, he's got to adjust to the game over here. He's got to adjust to angles. Ice is a little bit different, so there is going to be a little bit of an adjustment period for him. but I think it changes a little bit of the expectations because I don't think he helps them make the playoffs, but I definitely think that, this team is going to come out and they're going to come out raring to go. If you've heard any of these other of the other teammates talking about him, they're all excited. They can't wait to get him. They can't wait to get on the ice with him. Like that to me says a lot about not only what this kid brings to the table, but what a player of his caliber can do to a locker room and get them going. So to me, the expectations change. Does the exit destination change? No, I still think they missed the playoffs, but I don't think they take as far a step back as Danny Briere is expecting for the Flyers this year.
Okay. Mike saying, nah, better just stay the course, miss the playoffs, keep the rebuild going, draft next year. So he's going to throw the disagree out there. Benny's Nation saying, disagree. They still miss the playoffs in part because TK will be dealt for young pieces and draft picks will not help us now. And Mike also did go on to say, imagine the first line of Michkov, Luchenko, and Konechny. That would be pretty nice.
Eventually.
Right. Of course, Luchenko we have to wait on him.
About 3 years away on him, I'd say.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, who wants to jump in on the poll next?
Go for it, Brad.
Okay, I think that they are not going to make the playoffs yet. And the reason is not because this guy isn't going to be great and he's going to make them a great team, but I don't think the Flyers are aggressively going to try and get and make moves to try to make the playoffs. I just don't see that happening, not yet anyway. He's going to make a big difference, but they did lose Sean Walker. I understand that they've got young players in the system. Bonk looks like a guy that's going to be really good. I was taking a look at some of his offensive statistics, and he's definitely he looks like he can play the part. There's going to be some excitement. I don't know if as a whole team they're quite there yet. It's going to be really close. I just think that it's going to be tough because I'm not sure, and I know that we've had our disagreements about this. I'm not sure that their goaltending is good enough to get them in the playoffs. I think that could be a little bit of a problem. I've got to see better goaltending this year for the whole season. I know that it started off well, but I'm just not sure about either guy.
Okay.
But they'll be. I think they're going to be better. I just think that the Eastern Conference, all the Eastern Conference teams, I think it's going to be harder to make the playoffs. I think you're going to have to get like 96 points to make the playoffs this year. I just don't know if the Flyers can quite get there yet.
To be honest, I think 96 points would be a break because we've had 100-point standards in these last few seasons.
Yeah, but it's more competitive now because the teams are better.
Right.
The bad teams are not as bad as they used to be. At least that's just my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but
well, that's the natural progression of things. Teams get better if they rebuild properly. So, John saying agree, not only Michkov, but a healthy Jamie Drysdale. Wouldn't that make a difference? Oh, definitely. If Drysdale is healthy, absolutely that makes a huge difference. So now, to you, Robbie, what is your feelings on this? Agree or disagree?
Neither. Because you know what? I mean, the expectations are going to be the same here no matter what. If you're talking about the front office, the team, right? They just want to take the next step forward, right? But is it going to change expectations with this fan base? You sure as shit hell it is. And that's an absolute agree. Because, they're touting this guy as the next Lindros. Right, as the next generational player to come in here, expecting 90 to 100 points this season, and they're going to be disappointed, right? As this player, 19 years old, adjusts to the NHL game and learns on the fly at the highest level. Maybe comes in at 60, 65. This analyst would be tickled pink with that, right? But if that should happen, and this team still competes well, like we saw last year, pushes for a playoff spot, maybe gets it, maybe maybe just misses, maybe first round exit. No matter what those situations are, right away the people are going to come out and being like, "Oh, Danny Twigs! I thought this guy brought this guy." To quote Greg, I got to give credit to Craig Milakovich for that nickname. Fabulous nickname there, right? But right, so if it doesn't lead them directly to the promised land, it's just going to overinflate people's expectations, right? Is this a great kid? Have we seen everything today that you'd want to see from, your next great player? I'm labeling him as a great player with potential elite ability. I'm not ready to dub him generational yet. We need to see it.
Right. So,
Real quick, Robbie, way to freaking go outside of the box on that, dude. I love it. I love it. Taking it to a whole different perspective. Let's go. It's like he's been doing this for almost 9 years.
Right?
That's why I wanted all of you to go first, honestly, because that's just where I was coming from here.
Love it.
So for me, I am going to go disagree. I don't think that it changes where the Flyers are at. I think that adding Michkov is a very important piece to the puzzle, but there's still a few other pieces to work out. We haven't completed this masterpiece yet. There's still parts of it that haven't even remotely begun to get sketched out, let alone painted. We still have a few things we need to do before we can immediately jump out and say, we're ready. We're going to do it. We're going to dominate. We're still a few things off from that. So I would say disagree. But again, we don't really know. We don't know what the Flyers are going to do next year. The Flyers could be bad, or maybe they could do a repeat performance of what they did this past season. We really don't know. The Flyers are kind of a wild card going into this year because they could do great. They could do terrible.
And adding Michkov, I think, does make the wild card a little bit more wild, because if he does wind up turning into, at least this season, half of what he's expected to be, that's a win. You're going to see them go out. They're going to sell pieces this year. It's going to happen. They're going to do the same thing they did last year at the deadline. They're going to try and move salary cap to try and free up some of the cash now. And then most of these other guys are probably either going to get just let walk at free agency, or they're RFAs and they need to get re-upped like Cam York. So the thing is you're not going to see them go after anything of value unless it's a draft pick. But Michkov, if he does come to Philly and he does make the impact that a lot of people think he's going to, that's going to draw a lot of people to want to come play to Philadelphia. That is going to be – he has so much potential to be a game changer in so many ways, not just on the ice but off it. This kid could be Bryce Harper of the Flyers and just lure so many different stars here. And the Flyers, after this year, will have the cap space to sign people. Maybe Drysdale says, hey, I had enough of McDavid. Let me go play with the young kid. He could be the reason that Drysdale winds up in Philadelphia. You never know. The impact of this kid is not just on the ice. It's off it as well.
I've been thinking about Drysdale since he came up on the show, I think either last week or the week before. And he wants to win now, and I just don't see that being a good ultimate fit, because by the time this Flyers team is ready to win, you're talking about a player that will be into his well into his 30s. So, he's got a lot of talent, but I just don't see it being as... I was on board with that with you, Brian. I just, maybe I slept on it wrong. I don't know.
No, I get it. I understand. That's a fair take to have, because he will be at that point. But I will say this, like the Russian players in the NHL, the German players are built differently too. So I'm not overly concerned about how he's going to play when he gets to a certain age, but some of these players are just built different. And to me, And I'm with Maddie to an extent of I don't want to give him a super long-term deal. But if you can give him a long enough term deal where he can help this team get over that hump, get back in the playoffs, and maybe make a push or two, I'll take that as a win. I think that's a good thing to have Dreisaitl, because then you get him teaching the next group of guys too, because he's a leader on and off the ice in Edmonton as well. So similar to what Anaheim did bringing in Alex Killorn, you bring in a guy with that kind of resume that Leon Draisaitl has, with the locker room full of young guys, that could very much so be a situation that benefits the Flyers, even if it doesn't wind up being a Stanley Cup with his tenure with the Flyers, should he ever sign, obviously.
No,
Hey,
I mean,
Maddie,
I know.
where'd you go?
But we'll feed into what me and Brad are chatting about in our private chat. Sorry if you were hearing me typing. You know, I'm old, so I'm like this. You know, but hey, you make great points with former Russian players doing, much better than maybe what I'm prognosticating right off Jump Street.
Yeah, look, you made a good point. For those of you who want to know what we were talking about, I made a point about Sergei Fedorov's rookie year and Evgeny Malkin's rookie year. Sergei Fedorov had 31 goals, 48 assists in his rookie year. Pretty good, 79 points. I think he was a plus 11 too. Malkin was, what did I say? 33 goals, 52 assists, 85 points. So I think 70 to 80 points is not an unrealistic number, but they were 20 and 21, and that is a difference, believe it or not, guys, in that age bracket. But the talent is there, and I think that the NHL as a whole, the talent is a little bit more spread out now than it was back when those guys were playing. In other words, the level of players was a little bit higher then than it is now. So I think that gives him a chance to outshine a lot of guys and to definitely really put up some incredible numbers if he stays healthy. Okay, I think even if they aren't really good this year, I think he's going to have a fabulous year, and he's going to give you guys that definite building block for the future. No question about that. I mean, you'll have your guy, you'll have your franchise player, face of the franchise guy. The next thing you got to do is try to work something out with Konechny. And my personal take on Konechny is I think you're going to sign him $9.5 million for 6 years. That's just my personal opinion. He wants 10. I was taking a look at some other guys that are in the same, in my opinion, the same talent level, like the guy in the Red Wings, what's his name, Dylan Larkin.
Yep.
Okay, he makes $9.5 million. Okay, and I think their numbers are pretty similar. Okay, and I think they're about on the same level. So it's not unrealistic to think that TK is not off on that. And if you look at it, he wants 10. Flyers want to give him 8. So if they compromise at 9, okay, then all of a sudden, if now you're between 9 and 10, 9.5 seems to be something that might work. But I think you want to keep him because he's a real good player, guys. And you know what? He could end up being the captain of the team if you guys end up trading Couturier. So I think he's going to be around, and to have him as the leader of the team with Michkov, they're going to be really a good team.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting season for this. I mean, with all of the young, up-and-coming players that the Flyers have in their pipeline, adding Michkov into the mix just adds more excitement to it. I mean, obviously, like I said before, are we done? No. No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, it's definitely one of those things of the steps are being taken, the pieces are coming into place, and there's a lot of great potential on this Flyers team. And all that it takes is just to achieve it. that's all that's left to it at the end of the day, just to push forward and achieve it.
Well,
What
it's
I
really
will
less
say
than
though,
money.
getting back. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
No, you said the money for TK.
No, the money for the money for next season in the next off season, I think is when the Flyers go for it. They're gonna have all kinds of cap space, and that's when they can go for it and make decisions. And what they really have to do is decide who in their farm system is a keeper and who is trade bait. And you sign a couple of really good, solid veteran star players with the extra money that you're going to have. And I mean, look, you're going to have a superstar in Michkov, and you're not going to be paying him anything for the next 3 years. Okay, so the time to strike and get some real good players is going to be next year when you guys have all kinds of money, and there's next year looks to be a very strong free agent class.
So we have Linden 49 saying I agree. He also says 6 picks in the top 45 in next year's draft. Nice. And Anthony DeMeo saying, what's up, guys? Ken Holland is going to have to make a big decision this year with Draisaitl turning 29 in October. They have had that core together and can't win a cup. Flyers may benefit from it.
He might lose both in the next 2 years. So, Draisaitl is definitely going to probably take a walk and leave Edmonton. McDavid could do the same thing if they can't figure out a way to get over that hump in the next 2 years, because that's when his contract's up. He may hightail it out of Edmonton as well. So, see what happens.
And guess who's going to have all that money sitting there? I mean, that's the thing. That's why you don't want to rush it. You don't want to push too hard just to make the playoffs and then lose in the first round. You want to do this the right way, have the core built, and then you add a couple of big stars, and then you see where you're, and then you look where you're at in the middle of the season, and you can figure out what you need as the finishing touch. As far as Tikkanen and Tikkanen, I'm sorry, what am I saying? Draisaitl and McDavid are concerned. Yeah, if they get a goaltender, a real goaltender, they may end up doing it. I wouldn't put it beyond the realm of possibility there in Edmonton. And if they do win, that would even be better, because they probably would then say, okay, we did what we had to do there, and now we can leave. And because you won there, that's big.
So one thing to talk about too, besides that, with the extra money that the Flyers are going to have, and with the big push that they're going to try and make in the free agency, and they brought up Draisaitl. What's interesting about that is, do you feel like the Flyers would be in a position to make a move like that next year, or do you think that would even be a safe bet, guys? And the only reason I say that is because, again, we talked about this a few weeks ago, where we have the great debate of, is Draisaitl as good as proclaimed, or is it because he has McDavid on his hip? And I'm not saying that he's not. I definitely think he's the best German-born player to ever play in the NHL. That is without a shadow of a doubt. So the question I have to say is, where do you see the Flyers, if not Draisaitl, what big splash do you think the Flyers could make? Do you see them going out and grabbing a talent that may have his contract coming up soon? Or do you see a trade possibility coming up in the offseason next year?
Ultimately down the road, Matty, Stützle might have something, might throw his hat in. But as of right now, absolutely agree with you with Draisaitl. I listened to a lot of Danny B's press conferences following the season, and he's not as, optimistic about having the cap space even next offseason. Will they have more money available? Sure, right? But it might even go into 2 off seasons, because this is a slow build. This is, they're not taking their sight off of that. So they could potentially wait till that time, right? I mean, Brad made a good point that next year's free agent class will be pretty star laden, so, maybe you want to add another major piece as, guys want to come to Philadelphia, right, Brian? Because of the presence that Michkov brings with him, right? He's been a winner wherever he's been. That's big, no matter what stage of his development. At this point, he's bringing that into the locker room, right? Obviously, this kid's got a pretty sick work ethic. He's ready to hit training camp right now, today. Hit the ice, right? To your boy's point earlier, right? So he brings that to the locker room, right? And you want to match that ultimately with the current, what you got here. And I would say that if they do not wind up signing TK and trading him, as Benny's Nation pointed out in the YouTube chat, for younger players and draft picks, right? That's going to allow a lot more money for next offseason. So there's a lot of moving parts here, Brian, is my point.
No, absolutely. And you know what? It's the truth. And there's a lot of evaluation that has to go through this year to figure out what is really needed heading into not next year, but the year after. What year are we in? The 25-26 season. So a lot of it is goaltending. We're gonna find out this year for sure whether Sam Ersson can hold the reins of the starter, or if Fedotov can even figure out the NHL game, because his angles were not good when he came over in this 3 games. Granted, it's a small sample size. I defend him, don't worry, but he did not look good. He didn't look comfortable in the American game. So, with all that said, to answer Maddie's question, as Maddie's over here, not over there, I think they do make a splash, and I think they may make a splash before next season, and I think they make a splash with the Nashville Predators. To John's comment earlier over on the YouTube side, he was asking about UC Saros. It's not going to be Saros. It's going to be their young pup who now wants out, because he has no clear shot or no clear path to be a starter in the NHL, which he has every reason to be. The Flyers could be in a situation where that might fit what they're trying to do, and I think they could. I think they absolutely could, but that's going to take time. It's going to take a little evaluation on Ersson and Fedotov. I think they're going to be X factors in where the Flyers wind up finishing. But yeah, so to finish off Robbie's point, his work ethic, his character, that's an off the ice impact that is just going to lure people. His ability to just win, his drive, these are all characteristics of a future, not only just a star, but a future leader as well. So this kid could eventually wind up wearing a letter on his sweater at some point. So Anybody that's excited needs to be. Anybody who thinks that he's just going to shit the bed, watch hockey again. Like, watch this kid's highlights. This kid is absolutely ridiculous. And to touch on TK,
he's going to be really good.
And to touch on TK real quick, I don't see TK going anywhere. I do see him re-signing. I don't see him getting 9.5. I still think they find a way to get 8.5 done.
And I don't know. They would never trade him to Pittsburgh. Absolutely not.
Never say never.
Guys, there's some real quality free agents available besides for Draisaitl. You got Mikko Rantanen.
He re-signed. He's not going to be a free agent.
Oh, he's re-signed now?
He already re-signed.
Okay. I'm just looking at the list. They have Draisaitl, Rantanen. I think Crosby already signed, so forget him. Let's see who else they have. Mitch Marner, Brock Besser, Carter Verhaeghe.
I think he re-signed already too.
Oh, he signed too? Okay. Konechny, Marchand, Tavares, Claude Giroux, Nikolai Ehlers. And then on defense, you got Burns, Shea Theodore, Jacob Chikrin, Neil Pionk, and Provorov, who obviously you're not going to sign him. Goaltending is interesting. You got the best goaltenders really are Aiden Hill and Frederick Anderson. And then Georgiev, Olmark, and Igor. But I don't think Igor's going anywhere. So as far as goaltending, I don't see goaltending as a free agent situation ready to happen in the in the near future. I think you're going to have to go get who you're who you want, and you're going to have to make a trade if you want a goaltender.
Right, and that might be more of a need now, as we saw this weird offseason unfolding with Alexei Koloslov, who might be trying to get back into the KHL. Usually you see it go that way, but he was intensely homesick and did not deal well with living in the States. So that might be one key piece out of this pipeline of goaltenders. But, and this is a big but, you do still have Carson Bjarnason waiting in the wings too. So maybe it's a guy for now, maybe to help, and it's not a done deal. Like Koloslov may still report. We have to wait and see what happens there, but he has to get a better alarm clock, though. I know that.
You know what else is a need, though? Y'all know what there's a bigger need than that. It's hitting that like, hitting that subscribe, turning on the notifications, and never missing anything that HG has to offer. We got something for everybody. Don't matter what you like, we got it all for you guys. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on the notifications, and let's just keep talking sports all week. We got shows all week. Let's go.
All right, so let's see here. So a couple of things to point out here. Anthony DeMeo, if this is a rebuild, then why isn't Briere trading older players like Lawton, Risto, Coots, similar to how he traded Provorov last year? I feel like last summer he got an A+, but this summer he gets a D. Well, I will say this. Risto has a contract that I don't think too many people are going to want. Secondly, on top of that as well, Coots, that's another one that'd be kind of hard to trade off because he's got that contract of captain. So he's got some money on that and a little bit of length.
Doesn't he have a no trade?
I believe he has that too as well. So
yeah,
it's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to do that. Lawton, I mean, to be fair, you're probably not getting too much back for Lawton. Nothing against Superman, love Superman, but at the end of the day, it's like, what would you be getting back essentially for him? You'd probably just be getting some late picks, most likely.
I'm good with it. He's not making trades to just make a trade. I think what he's doing right now is smart, and it's continued evaluations. You don't necessarily want to free up too much space for guys who just aren't ready. And then on top of that, if the guy's not ready and they don't look good in camp, you traded Coots away already, who's going to fill that hole? You traded Lawton away already, who's going to fill that hole? Who's going to fill those leadership roles too? So that's the other thing you got to think about as well.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, they may not be getting. It's easy to say, well, you want to trade this guy, you want to trade that guy, but the Flyers want a certain type of player or a certain type of draft pick for these guys, and you know what? They're not going to just let them go for nothing. They're not going to do that anymore. I mean, they did that. They already did that with Kevin Hayes. Okay, they got lucky. St. Louis took him. Okay, and you could see how that worked out for St. Louis. Okay, he's now a Pittsburgh Penguin, so that really didn't. And the Blues didn't make the playoffs, so that didn't work for them either.
Well, let's see here. Mike's saying Olmark in Philly. Imagine that would be pretty cool, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Ain't happening.
I don't believe in him either.
Lyndon
I think
saying
he had one great year. That was it. He was not very good last year.
Lyndon saying any Kachuk would look good in orange and black. Yeah, I don't think Brady or Matthew Kachuk are leaving their respective teams. Dylan saying, what's going on, fellas? Flyers have their savior, we hope. I'm ready for hockey and to get hurt again, even though I have no expectations for the Flames.
Hey, Dylan, congrats on breaking ground on the new arena. You finally get rid of that crap hole in Calgary.
They're still playing at the Saddle Dome, aren't they?
For at least 1 or 2 more years.
Oh, my God. How old is that building now? 50 years old?
Pretty old. They came in the early 80s, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So, and I know what you're trying to say, but here's the thing. When you're sitting in a locker room full of 23 guys and not a single one of them speaks English, or not a single one of them speaks Russian, and you're just sitting there by yourself, not interacting with anybody, not doing anything, it takes a toll. Imagine being somewhere and not fitting in, and not being able to fit in because you can't speak the language. You get homesick and you get lonely real quick. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. If he terminates the contract and goes back to the KHL, good luck to him. It could also
you can't blame him for doing that. I mean, he's not saying he doesn't want to play in Philadelphia. He's just saying he wants to go home. Okay.
Let's see here. Eric's saying you can't trade everyone at once. It takes time. And Mike's saying 5 goalies from the East and West you would sign on the Flyers. Ooh, that's a lot. I mean, the problem is that all the goalies that I would sign are kind of already signed. That's the tough part of that.
I would be interested in that young kid from Nashville, for sure.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yes, take a look on him. Absolutely.
Him, Ottinger, Sebastian Casa in Detroit, Jesper Wallstedt in Minnesota, and oh crap, who was the other one? I think Marcus Soderberg in Ottawa. He's another one who's not quite ready yet, but he's got the potential to be a strong goalie in the league.
Gotcha. Dylan saying, only took Mackenzie Weegar to complain about for them to break ground for it. This Flames rebuild retool is supposed to last when it opens in 2026.
So, Dylan, are they going to trade him? I keep hearing Weegar's on the trading block. I wonder about that.
So, let's see here. Oh, by the way, for Benny's earlier, he said that Yui Krupp might have something to say about being the best German-born player. Leon Draisaitl has 850 career goals, and Yui Krupp had 281 total points in his entire career. Yes, he scored a Stanley Cup winning goal for the Colorado Avalanche, but the best German-born player by leaps and bounds, country miles, is Leon Draisaitl.
He like
Hakan Loob wasn't German,
just in goals.
I'm sure it was a joke. I just wanted to reiterate and reinforce the joke there. Let's see. Dylan is saying Weegar is going nowhere. Senators fans made fake rumors about it. Rasmus Anderson is a possibility.
Fans, actually, he's right. I think I saw. I think I saw that. I saw that on the internet. That's why I wanted to bring that up.
Utah has been interested since the draft.
Well, yeah, Utah is going to be. You're going to hear Utah in every trade rumor now.
Mike's saying, "What's the?"
They're going to want everybody because they have all kinds of money now.
Michael's saying, "What's the young kid in Montreal farm system in the AHL that's flashy?"
Primo?
Is Primo's now their starter? Is he not?
Yeah, he's a starter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robbie set us some highlights if we want to take a look.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
All right.
Oh, hold on. Let me get the pull off. There
Get the thing out of the way.
Oh, if it wants to play, there we go.
I mean, he just knows where to go. That's the thing that sticks out to me. He knows where to go. He's got good vision. He's got a nose for the net. He knows where his teammates are. His offensive IQ is just absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, I remember seeing.
Was that in Michigan?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Whew.
What's great is he
Those
shoots
hands.
from all angles, and that's exactly the type of player Flyers need.
Agreed.
Those hands are too much. Look at this.
Look at that. That is beautiful right there. Gorgeous.
And he knows how to sell it. Yeah, he knows how to sell it. Come on, this kid's been an NHLer since he was 15. Just the presence. Like I said.
He's done it
IQ.
multiple times. Holy crap. Like, to do it once in your career is great. He's done it several times.
I mean, Zegras is might be a little bit better.
Has he
Well,
done
I
it?
think
Spot the
Zegers, the way Zegers does it, it looks like he invented it. That's some wrist shot, man. This guy has some hands.
Whew.
He's a playmaker too. He's listed as a playmaker. He's not even a sniper.
You know who he reminds me of with that wrist shot? Tarasenko.
Mm.
The way he gets it off.
Yeah, you got a
Hey,
good
Obi-Wan.
look. You got a good look at Tarasenko too. So it's high
Yeah, that's
praise.
what I'm saying. He really the way he shoots the puck off the pass and that wrist shot, he really does kind of remind me of Tarasenko.
And his on ice positioning, right? Always hitting the center dot there in the circles, taking, being available, being free for the shot. This is a Michkov swoopy.
Oh, Spinorama,
Speaking of
nice.
people falling down.
We're talking about Ant. We always talk about. I talk about Bonk all the time. I'm very high on the kid. I can't wait for him to get up here.
Oh, definitely. We're all looking forward to seeing Bonk come up.
They got slow-mo is a good place to end it.
Oh,
That's pretty darn impressive.
Apparently we got a celebrity. Obi-Wan's here. Sup, man?
yeah, it's been a while since Obi-Wan's been here.
Yeah, I know.
Glad to have you.
He's busy slaying Sith.
You,
Anyway.
you know who else hasn't been here in a while? It's probably, it's probably been before Brad joined the show. God hasn't been here in a while either.
Yeah, no
Give it
kidding.
time. I think the season will come in and he'll show up. Don't worry.
I'm just saying, everybody needs a little God.
They do.
Remember,
They
he's
need a
always
Everybody needs a
little
little God.
God in their life.
He's always watching.
Obi-Wan is saying, is he definitely going to play on the right wing? Kind of a logjam on the right side now.
It is, and I expect a winger to get dealt because I do think he will play in the wing. There has been some talk about shifting him to the center, which is certainly a position for need on this team. I just don't think he has the size for it, honestly. He could probably do well because, Brian, you said he is listed as a playmaker.
Yeah, he's slated as a playmaker. So, obviously we saw the kid can shoot. You can't deny that. But I think he can play both wings if need be, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing for him to do, especially at a young age, to kind of give him a little bit of versatility and an opportunity to play more minutes. But I think the buyout of Cam Atkinson kind of frees up that spot for him. So that's going to be one less person you really have to worry about. I don't see, as much as I think he's going to have a much better season, I don't think that Bobby Brink is going to really affect cutting into any of his minutes, as I think he'll be on the lower lines where Michkov will probably be on one of the upper ones. But again, probably not a bad idea to play him on both wings, give him some versatility and an opportunity to play as many minutes as he can get.
Yeah, definitely. So we get a little bit further along here, gentlemen. With the addition of adding in Michkov and what have you, and then, of course, with Bonk and with plenty of the other young talent that we have currently, where do you see, we talked about, does the expectation change for the Flyers? And we've all had varying opinions on it. Hell, we even had an abstention from Robbie. So, gentlemen, I have to ask, where do you see the Flyers divisionally wise? Where do you see them finishing? Do you see
Don't use those fancy words, Sinsudi. Disrespectful. No.
Seriously, what you think? You got a word of the day calendar over there or something? Dropping words like that? What the hell's wrong with you?
Go ahead, Rob.
This is an English teacher over here now we're talking to. He's
Oh,
got to
that's
come
right.
with the
I
vocabulary. Yeah.
Mr. High and Mighty, Mr. I'm a literature teacher now. I can drop big words.
Well, I will say, as much as I appreciate you guys saying I'm a literature teacher, I'm a history teacher.
History, that's right.
I try to bring out sophisticated words that we haven't used in 100 years every now and again, because listen, you got to show off sometimes.
I'll see you guys.
Mitchkov ain't the only one who can show off.
The point is you're a literary mind now. You know what I mean? And that's what they like about me, my attention to detail.
Right.
I have none.
All right. Mike is saying he thinks 7th place behind Pittsburgh, just outside, but ahead of Columbus. So he's thinking the step back is going to hold true. So gentlemen, do you agree with that? Do you think the Flyers finish in 7th in the Metro, or do you think that they finish in a little bit of a better standing?
No,
I think they finished around that spot.
Yeah.
And the only reason is because I think it's, once again, going to be one of the toughest divisions in hockey. Rangers are staying pat. I think Carolina's pretty much staying pat. Islanders, I think, got a little bit better. If they can get their goaltending back on track.
The Devils got a lot better. Don't forget
Devils
them.
are better. Pittsburgh, I think, is going to be par for the course again this year. I think Columbus is the only team that's going to finish under them. Not because the Flyers are going to be bad, just because the division's going to be that tight.
All right. So Swoopy's saying 88 points. What do you think? Do you think that'd be good for what? 6th?
Yeah, that could be 6.
I'm going to say 6. I think I'll stay with 6. I think the Flyers will be there, maybe 7th. It could be possible that they hit 7th and they stay there. That's where my head's at. I don't necessarily think that we're going to have this blowout season. I think we're going to have more solid performances. But again, I think also with the expectation being as high as it is, a lot of times you see that one year where it looks like, wow, they might be closer than we think. And then you see a slight step back as you realize, okay, wait a minute. That was just a nice little teaser of what could be in the future. I mean, we just saw it happen with the Devils. We talked about how we thought the Devils were going to dominate the Metro, and then a bunch of injuries later, and they missed the playoffs this year. So it's very possible we could see the same thing from the Flyers. So
and there is definitely a realm of possibility here where a lot of teams were sleeping on the Flyers, not expecting to be like, this is an easy win, and didn't wake up and smell the coffee. Well, this season it's going to be a little bit different, and as they take them a little seriously, a little bit more blowback, but I think they'll answer that call. I think that they can finish ahead of teams like Pittsburgh, like a New York Islanders team that I see falling in the standings because they're just getting another year older, right?
Fair.
And the Islanders did have a lot of problems. They barely even made it in.
They did get to clear, though. That'll get some more goals for them.
Obi-Wan says, unless the goaltending falls apart. And then Mike says, screw the Devils. We can all agree on that. Screw the Devils. Eric says, Flyers take the last playoff spot. So they take the second wild card. And it says, Flyers second behind the Rangers. Wow, Anthony is selling high. Whoo, you are selling high, brother. I love that. I love the spirit. That is what I love, that spirit. I don't think that's true, but I love that spirit.
We're all going to trash him right now, and then the funniest part about it is he's going to wind up being right. He's going to come up here at this point this time next year and be like, well,
hey,
what happened?
Listen,
you know how he'll be right? Is if we do get Malkin and who did we talk about earlier? Fedorov numbers from Michkov. If we get 82 games at a high level from Jamie Drysdale, right? If you get guys developing like Bobby Brink, like Tyson Forster, like taking that next step, that's why they play the game.
It's true. Dylan's saying Flyers will be the first wild card, and he
I
thinks
think
Buffalo will be the second.
I think 5th is realistic. I think they could beat out the Capitals, and I think they can beat. I think they can beat out. Not Pittsburgh. I'm sorry. Yeah, Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh and the Capitals. I think they can beat those two teams out and come in 5th, and Columbus and come in 5th. I don't see them. I don't see them ahead of the Islanders because of the goaltending, and I do think I think the Islanders will figure out how to kill penalties this year and be a lot better. Because that really seems to be their bugaboo. They couldn't kill a penalty. They couldn't kill a penalty if they had guns pointed at their head. They couldn't stop penalties last year. It was so bad. So between them, the Devils, the Rangers, and Carolina, it's I would say they're the top 4 in any possible order. in all likelihood. Well, between the Rangers, Hurricanes, and Devils, I think it's any one of those three, and then the Islanders. But Washington, they looked so bad in the playoffs. They really did. They were uncompetitive, and I think the Flyers can do better than that.
I mean, they're revamped and they're ready to go. Like, they went out and got Jacob Chikrin. They got a bunch of other guys that they're making a push before Ovi leaves. So don't be surprised if the Capitals
but a lot of their
won't
guys
sit around and.
But a lot of their guys
Big
are a year
move.
older, though.
Okay, and
they're not a young. They are a very, very old team.
they went out and got some young pieces to add to their roster, so that means nothing to me. And they traded their older goalie to let Charlie Lindgren take the reins. So again,
I like Charlie Lindgren, but again, they just to me they looked like a very undisciplined team last year. Yeah, I mean, it'll probably help to bring some guys in, but I think the Flyers can beat that team out.
I mean, we'll see.
Billy Alves saying Drysdale is the key to everything. And Obi-Wan saying Bristow coming back healthy will have a bigger impact than we think too. I hate the contract, but I think he will do well if healthy this season. I hope. I know Bristow had some problems last season. Hopefully.
Use him as a third pair defenseman. I think he'll be fine. Just put him in the right spot.
I mean, he was fine last year until he got hurt. I had no issues with how he played. I thought he was actually playing really well until he got hurt.
Anthony saying Flyers my sleeper team. Mike saying Buffalo is too far down the road. They are nowhere near a playoff team. Swoop saying, wow, TK is seeking $10 million. Again, we've talked about this before. It could very well just be a ploy to get a little bit of a higher rate going for him. Lyndon saying, fingers crossed, hoping Coots has a good year. Definitely. Coots is very much a key to this as well. We really need him to be on point.
Healthy. Apparently, like Drysdale, played with a hernia all last year. Got it taken care of. Both men are 100%. So I'm expecting to see a much different Jamie Drysdale and Sean Couturier next year.
All right. Eric saying Flyers get into the playoffs due to Fedotov backup role, and the Mad Russian puts up shocking 100 points. I'm dreaming big here. Definitely dreaming big. I like it, though. Dylan saying Caps have all the Calder Cup champs as their AHL team, so lots of potential with younger guys.
Yeah, that too.
And let's see here. Lyndon saying Flyers are a young team. That they are. And Dylan saying back-to-back Calder Cup champs to be exact. And that is true.
Yes,
they beat the Coachella Valley Firebirds, which was the affiliate for the Seattle Kraken, if I stand correct.
I mean, they had a fantastic draft. I mean, you still got to think Capitals have Andrew Cristalli that needs to come up. Henrik Lapierre is starting to develop into a decent player. They got a couple of really nice pieces in this year's draft. I'm not worried about the Capitals. In fact, I am still worried about the Capitals because once they get some of these contracts unloaded, they're going to revamp real quick.
I'd like to see Richie Pilon's kid make it. Hopefully, maybe he'll get a shot.
He's not in Washington anymore.
Oh, Garrett's not in Washington. Not. Where is he now?
I forget where he went, but he got signed over the offseason.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. I'll have to look that up.
Okay, guys. So with the last closing minutes here of the show, we're going to dive in to our fun little segment here at the end, which is the Reverse Stanley Cup, the Reverse Cup, and that is from this year. So instead of us having a Stanley Cup final, which featured the Florida Panthers going back to the Stanley Cup finals for a second year in a row to try and make up for what happened the year prior, instead, the New York Rangers stop the Panthers dead in their tracks and go to the Stanley Cup finals for the first time since 2014 to hopefully win their first since 94. And on the Western side of things, instead of it being the Edmonton Oilers who finally managed to crack through the third round with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to get to the Stanley Cup finals, it is the Dallas Stars who stopped them and managed to break Canada's heart and also get to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since the bubble in 2020 when they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning and trying to win their first since 1999. So, with that, the situation and the scenario plays out. The Stars and the Rangers during the season series. The Rangers won 3-1, and then the Dallas Stars won 6-3. So competitive games, to say the least, between the two squads. And before we make our picks, quick look at the roster here. In the side of things for the Stars, on the goaltending side of things, we have Jake Ottinger. We also have on the forwards, Mason Marchment, who's just labeled as a forward. And then you have Jamie Benn, Rope Hintz, Jason Robertson, Maverick Borg, Ty Dellandrea, Matt Duchene, Radek Faksa, Wyatt Johnson, Joe Pavelski, Tyler Seguin, Craig Smith, Logan Stenkoven, and Sam Steele, and Evgeny Dadonov. My Lord, what a roster that is. Defense, Thomas Harley, Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, Niels Lundqvist, Alexander Petrovic, Ryan Suter, and Chris Tanev are your team for the Dallas Stars. For the Rangers, which obviously Brad already knows this, but for the rest of us out there who aren't blue shirts aficionados, in goal, Igor Shesterkin, while on the skating side, left wings, you have William Cooley, Chris Kreider, Lafreniere, Artemi Panarin, Jimmy Vesey, Johnny Brodzinski in center, Philip Hedl, Matt Rempe, Jack Roslovic, Vincent Trocheck, Alexander Wenberg, Mika Zibanejad, and then on the right wing, Barclay Goodrow, Capo Caco, Blake Wheeler. Defense, Adam Fox, Eric Gustafson, Ryan Lindgren, Keandre Miller, Braden Schneider, and Jacob Trouba. Those are our teams. So, gentlemen, who do we think wins this Stanley Cup final? And for more shits and giggles, what length do you see the series going?
Fun fact, real quick. So Johnny Brodzinski's dad works within my company.
That's cool. That's a cool little fun fact there. Interesting.
I just found out probably a month ago. I thought that was funny.
Still,
Cool.
that's pretty cool.
Tell him I said suck it.
I haven't met him yet. I'm just he works at one of the stores up in New York.
Okay.
Honestly, I probably have to go with the Rangers just mainly off of experience. I hate saying it, but it's the truth. I think it's two good teams. I think it's a long, drawn-out, hard-fought Stanley Cup final. But the experience on the Rangers side, I think, is what takes them over the top. I like Pavelski. I like Ben. I like Seguin. They've been around. They know what they're doing. But, on the Dallas side, the young guys have they looked very good at this past postseason, especially Wyatt Johnson. Whew. Stanky's going to be a good player as well. Ottinger is going to be a very good goaltender in the future. But to me, 6-7 games, I think the Rangers outlast the Stars.
All right. So we've got the Rangers winning that one in 6, as you said, right, Bri? All right. So, Robbie, what do you got here? Stars or Rangers, and what length?
A lot of 1-0, 2-1 games, I foresee. We saw Dallas play really solid, good defense in this year's playoffs, really taking that next step that they were missing the year before. Right, and that's going to come with experience. And when you talk about a stellar defensive squad, the Rangers, look them up. They're in the dictionary there, right next to, Igor Shesterkin, starting with him in goaltender, and that solid defensive core. I just think I agree with Brian. I think the experience would win out. In a very hard-fought series, easily a series that I could see go 7 games, and one that I would really enjoy. You gotta love New York versus Dallas, right? And I'll go with the Rangers in 7, and go with the under in terms of goals in that period in that series.
All right. So Robbie with the Dallas pick right there.
No, Rangers.
Oh, Rangers. I'm sorry,
That's right.
Rangers.
In 7 opposed to 6 for Brian.
Right. Gotcha. So Rangers in 7. I'm going to say Brad for last because I kind of have a feeling I know where he's going. Obi-Wan said Stars and Rangers would have been a good series. Lyndon saying 2 good teams, Dallas for my pick. Mike says Dallas sweeps the Rangers. For me, I'm going to go Dallas. And the reason I would go Dallas, I think that they would actually be able to pull off some nice heroics that they were able to pull off during the playoffs. Because think about it, Dallas was dead in the water against Vegas, and they came storming back after losing both games at home to start off the playoffs, crushed it after that, didn't look back. The only thing that killed them at the end of the day was the Oilers somehow, someway having a great penalty kill. Don't know how they pulled that off. I don't think they'll ever do it again, but they pulled that off. So ultimately, I would say I think Dallas does it. I think it goes full 7. And I think what will happen is it comes down to Shesterkin and Ottinger. And the problem is you could go either way with that. Ottinger plays well, Rangers are going to have a hard time scoring. If Shesterkin's playing well, Dallas is going to have a hard time scoring. But I think Dallas would win. And I think they would get some goals from players like Robertson, from players like Heiskanen, even from Foxa, from depth. I think that they would find that. So I think they would win in 7. I'll go even further. OT, just to make it even crazier. Brad, go ahead.
I would pick the Rangers, and I think I'd pick the Rangers in 7. I think there's no way the Stars are beating the Rangers in Madison Square Garden in a Game 7 for the Stanley Cup Finals. If the Stars were going to win, they'd have to win it in 6.
And that is true. The Stars would have to go back to the Garden.
Yeah, the Rangers would have home ice advantage. I think the Rangers' power play would have been very effective against the Stars. In the 2 games that they played, the Rangers' power play did click pretty well against them. It'd be a very low-scoring affair, as you guys have all agreed, and I would agree with that too. I just think the Rangers would find a way to beat that team. They had that it factor this year. You know, they just couldn't handle Florida. Nobody really could, unfortunately. They couldn't stop Florida's power play. I do think they would have been able to stop Dallas's power play. When they played to each other, the Rangers have always had Ottinger's number. For whatever reason, they seem to score a lot of goals against him. So I don't know if that would hold up, if that's a trend that would hold up in the playoffs, but it always, it just seems like when you have a goalie's number, kind of like the way the Flyers always seem to have what's his name's number, Fleury's number when he was with Pittsburgh.
And Vegas.
Yeah, I think they would find a way in that particular regard. Both games were close. The Stars won 6-3 in Dallas. It was a 4-3 game, and then Dallas scored 2 empty net goals. The Rangers won 3-1 at the Garden. They had a 2-1 lead and scored an empty net goal at the end. So they were both similar types of games. So I think at that point, I think the Rangers would have found a way, especially with home ice.
All right. Obi-Wan says Rangers in 6. Shesterkin would have been lights out in my opinion. So we have pretty much the Rangers winning this bad boy per democracy. Everyone was picking the Rangers with the exception of me and Lyndon and Mike. But Obi-Wan was picking them. And along with, I believe, there was another person who picked the Rangers in here, I thought. No, actually, I'm wrong. It was just Obi-Wan. But all the same, Bri, you picked the Rangers. Rob, you picked the Rangers. Brad, you picked the Rangers. So, therefore, Lyndon, me, and Mike, that's 3. And you guys have 4. So, therefore, there you go. As close as it could possibly get, the Rangers take the cup instead over the Dallas Stars. They would not only prove the President's Trophy curse is non-existent, but they would also win their first cup since 1994. Thank God.
Bring that up, didn't you?
Just
Thank
saying
God that
just-
didn't happen. That's all I gotta say. Thank God that didn't happen.
saying that leaves a terrible taste in my mouth. Like I
it's a
can
it's
never
a
say
tough
those
one.
words again.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So, but that's a fun little segment that we can bring to you guys that we'll probably bring moving forward. So we did last year. We'll do other years for the fun of it and go back in time and see two different teams facing off with each other in a reverse version of the Stanley Cup Finals to see who walks away with the win. It's interesting when you do because the dynasties that we saw may not have existed actually if you reverse it, ironically enough. So, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. We thank you all for joining us once again on this edition of Flyers Talk A2D. Once again, we are brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. If you need to make an appointment because you got aches and pains, specializedphysicaltherapy.com is the place to go. And we will see you guys next week right here on A2DRadio.com. So much excitement building for the Flyers season. Michkov is here. Bonk will be coming up. Forrester's here. York is here. There's so much young talent the Flyers have. And there's so much to look forward to.
Screw you, Ducks fan. Just kidding.
I hope Cutter scores 0 goals for you this year. Anyway.
No.
We'll see you guys next week right here on Flyers Talk A2D. Peace and love, everyone.